Hi, I'm Art Steinmetz. The purpose of this recording is to show how we can overlay the historical maps and documents of the Danube Swabian onto the modern imagery of Google Earth. Hopefully, this allows us to locate the precise location of the houses or at least villages of our ancestors, zoom in on that, and see what these locations look like today in modern Serbia. So let's get started. First, I assume you've loaded Google Earth, you've installed it and loaded it, and you've downloaded the placemark file that I've provided on the web that has embedded a number of maps and villages and markers and other document artifacts of the Danube Swabian. And hopefully you and I will be adding more to these in the future. So we've loaded Google Earth. Now let's look at the layer pane in the lower left-hand corner of the screen and turn on some of the layers. Let's turn on borders, so we click on that, places, photos, and roads. And we can see how the country borders have now appeared on the big blue marble. Next, let's load the placemark file. So File, Open, and again, hopefully you've downloaded this file. This one is called Danube Swabian, and we open it, and it loads the particular place marks that are contained within the file and zooms into the rough region of the file. So now we see the Bačka and the Banat regions on this map of, again, modern Serbia. A couple things to note. You see the roads marked out in yellow. Also, you see these little tiny dots here. These represent these little blue and brown dots scattered all around the map. These represent photos that people have taken, and they've geotagged them to identify the location. Now, in my experience, I find that the geotagging is not entirely reliable, but hopefully you'll find that the particular ones you might look at are. So now let's turn on some of the overlays here. I've taken my family's village of Shova, and so let's zoom in on that in particular. So I click on Shova and it goes right to it. Now, of course, the village is known as Ravno Selo. And again, it knows where it is because I created that place mark. I have another number of maps here which are interesting, one of which is the 1944 Ortsplan that has the addresses and names of the residents for the entire village. Ideally, that's what you can find, a high-resolution image where the names are legible. And using that, we can overlay that onto the street, and we can zoom in. Now, my family name is Steinmetz, and you can see a number of Steinmetzes here. So here's one at 1919 Allegasse. And again, I've rectified the map so it lines up to the existing modern map, and I can use this transparency slider over here to make the map invisible or visible. I see a little dot right here which shows a photo that someone has taken. So let's look at that, and you can see a brightly colored shop there, very quaint, that exists today. And I'm interested in finding out what the house of this Steinmetz who lived at 19 Allegasse looks like. Now, I have also gone and put little pushy pins at the houses of my family. This particular one over here in the lower right, Philip Steinmetz lived at 5 Rappengasse, and I've added to the annotation the data from the Familienbuch. So I just click on the pushy pin and it brings up that data, and you can see the inhabitants, the residents of this particular house. And this was my grandfather's brother. This Steinmetz over here was not a relative, but we're going to focus on him because it lets us use another cool feature of Google Maps, which is Street View. Now, Google Street View cars drive all over the world, and if you live in the United States, it's almost certain that your street has been imaged for Google Street View. In Serbia, out in the sticks where Shova is, just the main drag has been imaged on a single drive-through. But we can grab the little gentleman here who's called Pegman, and as we click on him, you see some of the streets that are available for viewing on Street View have become a blue line instead of a yellow line. So let's drag Pegman over here to where these Steinmetzes lived, and voila, it zooms right in and shows us the street view. And if we rotate around, we can see that right here is the house where the Steinmetzes lived, and it had, you can see it's one of the older houses. It has the characteristic gabling of the Danube Swabian houses of that era. And further down, we can use our mouse to click and drag around to view in a 360 view. We can click to drive down the street, and of course here we see the outside, let's go back up here, of that little shop where someone had taken a picture. So again, you can see the contemporary imagery. So it's quite fun to drive around the streets of these towns, locate what your ancestors' residence looks like today, hopefully, if they have a street view, but at a minimum, know precisely where your family came from. So we go back up here to the right, and we exit upper right and exit street view, and we zoom out, and we can see that plan, and we can go over here and turn on, in this case, go back up to the upper left, turn on all of the imagery that I've loaded into this file, which at the top level includes a map that lets you see the Schwäbisch names for these villages as opposed to the modern Serbian names. And we can drive back out, and that's it. I hope you enjoyed it.